Welcome, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys are doing well. This is Jimmy. We have here BC Richfield. We have here Doug and Matty Greenspan. We're going to touch on a lot of hot topics. We all know the halving is coming in just like a few blocks. Not sure how many blocks we have still to mine. I think around 250 blocks. So this event is going to have a serious impact on a lot of people, a lot of enterprises. It's going to have a massive, huge impact on the Bitcoin ecosystem. And that's why we have actually invited market industry leaders such as Doug and Betty Greenspan. And we have here our lovely co-host, BC Richfield. How are you guys doing? How are you guys? How are you doing, Doug?
I am doing fantastic. Dallas has been doing really good today.
Awesome. I see we have another junior co-host in the background with Matty Greenspan. How are you doing, Matty?
I'm having fun. Just waiting for the heaven.
Yeah. So, guys, let's just dive into the hot topics. Um, I know you guys can explain this way better than I can do, but please give us like a quick, reminder why, the role of miners in this entire Bitcoin ecosystem and why miners really, why do they have like such an important role in this ecosystem?
Yeah, excellent question. So miners are basically securing the Bitcoin network. And the idea is, I mean, this is the first type of money that does not need a third party in order um, to facilitate a transaction. So I'm able to directly pay you Bitcoin the same way I would hand you a $20 bill, and you're able to take it from me. We don't need somebody to write down and make sure that that transaction was fair, like Visa or MasterCard or a bank or something like that. And the way that's done is because rather than having one person as your third party, you're actually having the entire network act as a third party here. And basically, the way it works in cryptography is that each transaction, first, as soon as you broadcast a transaction, you say, okay, I want to send Jimmy 0.2 Bitcoin, and you tell that to the network. And then the network comes in, the miners come in, and that goes into something called a mempool, which is basically the unconfirmed transactions. And then the miners go and take all of the Bitcoin transactions from the mempool, and they start adding them into blocks. They say, okay, Mati sent Jimmy 0.2 Bitcoin, Doug sent BC 3.4 Bitcoin. And they start, yeah, you're welcome. It's all a virtual money up to this point. They start writing down them, and they fill out something called a block. The block is up to 1 megabyte worth of transaction data. And then each transaction has something called a hash, which is a long string of numbers and letters. And then at the bottom is something called the hash for that block, right? And basically what the miners are doing is they're just getting a hash that will work with the block, right? So that's you've probably heard the analogy that we're solving mathematical puzzles. It's actually not a puzzle. Like a puzzle, when I think about a puzzle, is I need to think about the logical solution, right? I've got a puzzle like this, right, where you got to take these things apart. You have to think about it using your brain. Actually, what miners do is the guessing game, right? So they just guess a hash that will work cryptographically with the rest of the hashes from all the transactions, and then it will be able to seal the block. And a hash is very difficult to guess, but as soon as you have it correct, it's very easy for others to say, yes, that is correct. So once one miner finds the hash, they broadcast to the network. They said, hey, everybody, I'm sealing this block. Here is a hash that works. And then all of the miners go, oh, shit. And then they update their records. Okay, yes, he won. He's got that block. And then they seal off the block. As soon as 51% of the miners confirm that this hash indeed works with this block, the block is sealed, and we move on to the next block. The block reward and any transaction fees that are within those transactions go to the miner. At the moment, that reward is 6.25 Bitcoin, which at today's prices is what, 6.2 25. What are we at today? 62,000, I think. 62,000.
3.5 almost, yeah.
Yeah, so it's $387,000 for solving that block. And then after the halving, that goes down to 3.125. So divided by 2, meaning every block is only now worth less than $200,000. So that's what the halving is, and that happens once every 4 years
Yeah, indeed. Like
during Bitcoin's
every
scarcity.
210,000 blocks, and then we're gonna have another halving event. How prepared do you think the current leading miners are for this halving event? I know for a fact, like a lot of miners, they have learned from the previous 3 halving events. So how is this halving event different from the previous 3?
Oh, I don't know if you're or Jewish or familiar with the Jewish faith. How is this halving different than all other halvings? Is that kind of where you're going with that? Yeah, that's we're celebrating Passover next week, so that's my kids are doing it all day long. Why is this night so different from all other nights? Well, this halving is different than the previous 3 in that the network has progressed to a global force. In the first Bitcoin halving, I saw Charlie Shrem just posted a picture of them celebrating with Eric Voorhees and a few other OGs, like the first Bitcoin halving. And you saw that picture. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But not a lot of people knew what Bitcoin was at that time, and certainly nobody really understood how Bitcoin mining worked or those type of things. I mean, at that time, you could basically mine Bitcoin with a laptop. You just set the program up to run. You run it overnight. You've got a few thousand Bitcoins in the morning. You're like, hey, whoopee, and then you go like a plebe and sell them for like 2 pennies a piece or whatever. I would say that the second halving was also very similar to that, maybe a little bit more established. But the third halving was really the only time when there was actually miners. There were already ASIC technology, which is the application specific ones that they look like a half a computer with a fan in the back. Those are the type that we're running right now in our site. So once they basically changed the game for mining, you can't really mine with a laptop anymore. You won't really be able to get very much hash rate out of it. And in the last halving, we did see basically a reduction in the overall hash rate of the network, to the tune of like 20% or something like that. What happens is that the ASIC miners and the miners that are not profitable are going to shut off their machines, or any machines that aren't profitable, they're just going to shut them off, because why would somebody mine Bitcoin for more money than they could just buy it on the market? It just doesn't make much sense. I mean, it happens sometimes, but not very often. I mean, we miners, we're a greedy bunch. We like money, we like profits. So as far as that's concerned, the first 2 halvings did not have much impact on the hash rate. I think this was just like anybody who's running it on their laptop, like, what do they care? Nobody was taking into account the electricity cost of mining. It was like it's the same as just running your laptop. So after that, once it became a business, that did happen. And I believe that, and we can only speculate to how the hash rate is going to react. What's interesting though, and if I can share my screen, I can show you that the chart of the overall hash rate on Coin Wars. It has one of the best charts.
Yeah, because the last time I checked, it was rising, and it keeps rising for a long time.
Yeah, it does. But the interesting thing is here that it hasn't really come up in the last few months or so, right? It's more or less stable. Like into the other halvings, what you expect is that everybody's putting as much hash rate as they can, right, up to the halving, and then at the halving, the cutoff point, and that's what really happened last time. But in this time, it's really relatively stable, and I think that the reason for this is the Bitmain's S21 series. Right, the S21 is the latest mining machine, and it is super powerful. And they've been really distributing these from the beginning of the year. right? So they basically just kind of replacing the S19s from about January. Anybody who's buying new machines isn't really buying those older machines anymore. They're now buying the new machines. So you can see this kind of jump. And they've also set their distribution as such where people who are buying in January were buying machines that wouldn't arrive until June, right? Until after the halving, right? So we went with the S19s because we had a deployment in December, and because we wanted to go now before the halving, and there was no way that we'd get our hands on the S21s. But they're also, the S19s are not terrible machines. We're definitely be profitable with them. Even after the halving at our electricity rates, is going to be a walk in the park. So yeah, but yeah, if you zoom out, the hash rate always goes up and to the left. I think this is only like one of the only real periods of downtime. This is when we incorporated our company, was when China kicked out all of their miners overnight.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And that's when we decided to go. That's when we're like, yes, this is our chance. We're, you know, and that's when we started the company. But it did take us a while until we were able to get up and running, until we saw the market as ready for us. So yeah, so that's hash rate. That's that in a nutshell.
Yeah. So if you take this into consideration, and also taking into consideration that this trends will continue to the upside, could this lead to like minus capitulation in the next 6 months, because not everyone can afford these very expensive devices, the mining devices?
Yeah, that's really one of the reasons why we started Quantum Expeditions in general, and because and particularly why we did the crowdfund, was because we wanted everybody to have the opportunity to take part in Bitcoin mining. And clearly not everybody can afford. I mean, these machines at the moment I think are going for about $3,500–4,000 each, and you have to have access to cheap electricity. I mean, some people are paying 50 cents per kilowatt hour on electricity. You can't do it from your home, so you have to procure the electricity, and that doesn't really make sense to do it for 4 or 5 machines or whatnot. So in this case, when we set up the crowdfund, the idea is that everybody can make their investment. And instead of like buying machinery and worrying about the yield, and worrying about the hash rate, and worrying about uptime and everything like that, we do all of that, and they're actually just buying a piece of the company. And that way, as the company grows, their investment grows as well. Even if the machine that we bought using their money 5 years ago, right, is already mothballed, they still have that piece of the company, and as the company grows, their investment's going to grow too.
I have so much other follow-up questions for you, Matty and Doug, but before I'm going to continue with these follow-up questions, ladies and gentlemen, please hit the like button for Matty. He is here spitting with a lot of alpha, also for Doug and BC Richfield, and if you like, also for me a little bit, but hit that like button. Matty and Doug, like a question. Some of our followers, I see a lot of new faces, but like there's some people already familiar with you and with Quantum Expeditions. Some people are not. Please tell us, briefly where you guys are mining, like as in like which place in the world, and why you guys have chosen that location.
Yeah. So I don't know where Doug is. I can't see him. Are you here, Doug? Are you with us?
I am here. I apologize. For some reason, I've restarted my computer and before this started, and it still wouldn't catch my mic or my camera. At first, I didn't even have a mic. So anyway,
your camera might be in use by another application if you've got something else running.
That's why I restarted my computer.
Oh no, maybe you're just too handsome to be broadcasted live.
I've seen him. It could be the case.
Yeah. I got a new hairdo last night, so yeah. I figure if they're going to cut our hash rate in half, I better go cut my hair in half. So, what the heck? But no, we So, I guess to keep it really brief, Marty and Oz came to me asking for natural gas. Oz and I have a mutual acquaintance over in Fort Worth, Texas. And so that's why they recommend they give me a call. And um, we at first it was these billion-dollar companies wouldn't oil and gas companies wouldn't give us more than 12-month contract. So that got us going farther and deeper into looking for energy. Talked to a couple of consultants. They said the best place is plug into a substation. And I've got a cousin that's been in construction for 50 years there in West Texas. And he said, well, why don't you, talk to my friend? He works at the power company. And long story short, they said they wanted to do business with someone local. And, the guy that I was talking to drives down a road named after my granddaddy almost every day. And so, and we beat out some pretty large companies to get this power purchase agreement. Right. So it was a interesting, first start for me, getting into a mining business. And, Oz and Marty said, hey, Doug, will you be the CEO? Of course, I did a lot of, due diligence on my side to see who this quantum economics group was all about. So, I mean, that goes without saying now. I mean, it's amazing because when you look at our seed round, that all Marty did was put a post out there on X, and we raised our first $350,000, and so that goes with the reputation that Marty and the whole quantum group has. So yeah, quantum economics. We now have quantum expeditions where I'm part of the group, and so. It was funny the first couple of years. Marty was constantly, I want to mine, I want to mine, I want to mine. China shut down, but it was always, but it's not. We're not ready yet. There was things that weren't in place yet that we felt we should be mining yet. And then when it was time to pull the trigger, we got our S19K Pros at the very literal bottom penny of the market. Or if we had bought them earlier or later, the price would have been higher. So that was a pretty awesome situation. And then, of course, through a lot of networking and meeting people within the mining community, we were able to deploy very, very quick because, they were like, hey, let's work together on it. And I come from the oil and gas industry. It's cutthroat, and this is something I really loved about the Web3 community is there's actual community. They support each other and help each other. And that's one of the things when I first started going on these back then Twitter spaces and stuff, and you've got two people trying to do the same thing. And in my mind, they're competing for the same business, but they're helping each other. And it's like, what's up with that? And so, you just don't see that in normal business. And it really sparked something. And that's why last year when we said, hey, why don't we do a crowd fund and we can bring the whole Bitcoin mining to the Web3 community that's really been shut out for the individual person. Like, Marty was saying earlier, not the average person can go out and lay down $4,000 for one ASIC and let alone negotiate a power purchase agreement because mining at home, your power is so expensive. Unless you've got another reason for that extra heat in your house, like Badger, who we merged with earlier, Justin Kramer. He's got a miner in his basement because he lives in Wisconsin where it gets 30 below zero, Fahrenheit. So, he uses the heat from the miner to help keep his house warm. So, unless you've got another use case for that miner, if you're just mining, you're probably spending more money on electricity than you're making in Bitcoin. So, that's where the whole crowd fund, and now people can get in for $100 or more. And we've got all kinds of merchandise and different levels of, investment where you get, some free stuff. But anyway, I hope that answered your question, kind of where we were and what we're doing and how we got there.
Yeah,
Love it.
indeed, I love it. Thank you, Doug, for giving that a little bit piece of history and clarification. I do have like a few concerns when it comes to the mining industry, because we all know like the mining industry has been really growing a lot. We've seen the hash rate rising up a lot, especially since that China dip in 2021. So there's a lot of competition going on. So how could miners, and how do you? I already know how, what you guys are doing, and how to hatch and how to be prepared. But soon, the competition is deploying as much hash rate as possible to get that 3.125 Bitcoin reward. And I don't think a lot of miners I don't believe that a lot of miners are really prepared for that. So how can miners really prepare for them, aside from having high quality devices? What else could miners do to not capitulate?
Yeah, great question. It's about tightening the belt. It is what it is. I mean, the revenues that you've been seeing over the last year have been cut in half. Just a second.
I have kids as well, so I know exactly what Matt is going through.
I'm gonna have to jump up for 5 minutes and come back but I'm happy to answer this question first because it's important. A lot of miners have been funded through debt, and it is the main way of funding a mining operation like this. And when we did the math on that, even before the halving, well, we always knew that the halving was coming, so it's been part of our roadmap and understanding. We've been preparing it. We even basically have a countdown timer to the halving on our homepage at quantumexpeditions.com. And when we did the math on let's say, okay, you get a $10 million loan and you're paying X in interest rates, you've got to pay Y in debt servicing on a monthly basis. You can buy this amount of machines, and this is how much Bitcoin you're going to be able to mine, and that's how much it's going to cost. And even when we did like the most optimistic projection surrounding that debt financing, it still came out to that we're going to be paying on a monthly basis something like 70 or 80% of the net Bitcoin that we mine to whoever send us the loan. So we're like, at that point, like it just doesn't make sense. And a lot of the biggest companies out there are on that model right now. So they do have those type of large debts they're going to need to deal with after the halving. We have zero debt whatsoever, completely debt free. We've funded directly through equity. So when somebody invests in Quantum Expeditions, they're buying a piece of the company, and that piece of the company will grow as the company grows. So that's number one. Number two is that because we're a very simple operation, for us it's very easy to say, okay, this is how much we're mining on a weekly basis. This is how much our electricity costs on a weekly basis. This is how much we're paying in, staff and upkeep and maintenance and everything like this. So for us, it's very simple to see, okay, yes, we can, okay, it sucks that like over the last 2 months we were making lots and lots of profits, and now we're going to be like, okay, for a little bit we're going to be making a lot less profit, but we'll still be quite in the green after the halving, which is totally fine, and we'll be continuously adding to our fleet. And what's the wonderful thing about that is that right now, we're projecting, over the next quarter after the halving to have, X amount of profits. After we deploy the next 2 waves of machines, all of the overhead and expenses have already been covered. So the rest of it, every time we buy those new machines over the next few months, that's all gravy. That's all, like, it just increases our profit margin by 2-3x easily. So that's how we're preparing, is adding more S21s to our fleet. They're very available now. We can get them within 6 to 10 days of payment. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Sorry.
Fine, Matthew. Actually, kind of took the words right out of my mouth there, because we were very fortunate to work with with Matty, Doug, the whole team at Quantum Expeditions, which is a really exciting company. And actually, one of the things when we were researching more into that, that really surprised me is how debt heavy some of the biggest companies in the space are. And I just can't help but think that the massive impact that that's going to have, obviously, with the halving, right? You know, sustainability, cost, energy prices rising. So I think, you know, really, really good bunch of guys, very, very knowledgeable. But I think taking off from that footing that you're not having any debt in any business is incredibly powerful. And I think when you're facing an industry like this, you know, when you're about to get your incentives basically cut in half, what a really, really good position of strength to be working from.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably underestimate how important that is. You know, especially you see in the market, the general market, and they're talking about, at least here in the United States, that debt is up like 50% from where it was a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, the mindset of a lot of people, you know, with their credit cards and stuff, and just throw on a bunch of debt, you know, and I'll get through to the next whatever, you know, pay raise or something. I have no idea. But, you know, that's when you have debt, you're the master to who you owe that debt to. And, you know, we don't want to be a master to anyone. And we take our responsibility to the small community that we've built so far very serious. And I think that, you know, because they're getting us to where we are today, and we're going to make sure that, you know, we include them in everything. That's why when you look at, you know, not everybody can do $2,500 investment in our crowd fund. You know, that's a decent amount of money. And, you know, that's where you get an ordinal, a free ordinal if you invest $2,500 or more. Well, for the guy that can only do $100 or $200, he's out of luck. Well, we decided to help them out. And so we started doing drawings for anybody that invested any amount. And so people that invested under 2,500 could win an ordinal. So, you know, we really do take our community very serious. And you go to our, what do you call this app again? I got to remember all these. I've never had so many apps before in my life. Discord server.
Discord, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. And it's really cool because there's a lot of people on there nearly all day long. And so there's somebody in our marketing team that's, if not one of us, you know, in the executive team, that's on that Discord all the time and answering questions, or, you know, somebody will come and grab us, you know, and say, hey, somebody's got a question about such and such, you know, can you jump in real quick? You know, so we do. We take everybody serious.
We dropped a link to the Discord here just in the chat. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more, I encourage you guys to visit this Discord. I really think that, you know, everyone who is involved in trading or crypto needs to have like a basic understanding about mining and this entire industry, because each halving event has like a major impact on miners, as their you know, basically their revenue for the short term at least will be stable or will decrease, and it often takes a lot of time before you know, miners actually can profit from the halving. I mean, we all know halving, it means less supply, but it's you know, the circulating supply at the moment is 19.7 million, so there is already a lot of supply. And today I just did a live stream about the effects from a TA perspective, price action perspective. So the first halving, we had actually sideways price action for 35 days. And then the secular trend resumed to the upside. The second halving, we had a post-halving crash of 30%. You know, it was actually the halving event where we went from 25 Bitcoins to 12.5 Bitcoins. The third halving event, I believe, you know, halving events are kind of priced in from a hype perspective, but the real the real actual halving, it takes off, of course, you know, often, you know, a lot of weeks and months before we actually feel the halving. So the third halving event, like the previous one, you were actually in a sideways price consolidation for 152 days, and then we saw like a continuation to the upside. I believe, and this is like my theory, is the hype towards the halving is kind of priced in. A lot of people are anticipating the halving, but before we actually feel the halving, and I don't see like the halving as a binary event. The halving is actually an event. We already knew this event since the creation of the white paper. Every 210,000 blocks there is a halving. The next 190 blocks we're gonna enter like another halving event. So I believe like the longer we are actually in a consolidation phase after the halving, the more this is just a theory, the more other like mining companies will capitulate, unless they have a lot of reserves and unless they are debt free and unless they have really good mining devices. So just my question to you, Doug and Matty, is: do you subscribe to the idea that the halving for the first few weeks is actually a nothing burger, and it will need a lot of time before we actually feel the shock in supply?
Yeah, I did the math today. I do a weekly episode of Ask the Advisor, and people are asking us about the halving and how that's going to affect the supply and demand. It actually doesn't. It is seriously little. The high level numbers are there's $17 billion being traded on Bitcoin's blockchain every day. That's just the blockchain. Meaning the ETFs are another 4 to 10 billion. Who knows how much is traded on exchanges? I don't believe the numbers they're saying, but it's a lot. But just the on-chain verifiable amount of Bitcoin that's being traded a day is 17 billion. The halving brings us from 900 Bitcoin generated per day to 450 generated per day. 900 Bitcoin at today's prices is like $55 million. So 55 million compared to 17 billion, it's not it isn't a lot. And then go down from 55 to 27. Okay, like it's not a big deal. But what it is a celebration. It's a party. It's a celebration of Bitcoin's digital scarcity. It's people who didn't know much about Bitcoin are now learning about Bitcoin. They know that the halving event does not mean that the price gets cut in half, though we were getting pretty close over there the other day. Like, oh, yeah. But yeah, no, people understand what it means, and just we get to literally think about the fact that there's only 2 million Bitcoin left to be mined, and that's going to happen over the next 120 years. So that, and I think that there's a lot of hype lately around the runes and and the ordinals and a lot of stuff going on there. I noticed the transaction fees have gone through the roof last few days, and no problem for us because we're picking up the extra on that. That just adds directly to our profits and our bottom line. And I think that there's going to be a lot. There's just a lot of things that are happening in the Bitcoin network itself, which are very exciting, surrounding layer 2s and surrounding DeFi that just have never existed before. The Taproot upgrade that happened, I believe it was 2019-ish. No, must have been 2022 or something when that Taproot. When did Taproot? Sorry, you're on mute, BC. When Taproot came into effect, it allowed people to start programming on top of Bitcoin in a way that has not been available before. And we saw the ordinals and now the runes. So it's a very exciting time. And there are now I'm in touch with like the Bitcoin, some Bitcoin accelerators that they used to have like nobody involved, and now they're just flooded with projects that are coming in and building on Bitcoin, and it's beautiful to see. I think that we're going to see a lot of new utility on the main chain. Yeah,
that's really true. It does open the door to new opportunities. I think it was already in 20, I think it was in Berlin, Reese, in June. It was actually basically the first time when I heard about BRC20, and ever since it really took off. I haven't really invested at that time. Now I do regret a little bit, but I do think that ordinals do have a lot of potential. In the, it could be like one of the industries that could really take off. I'm personally myself really bullish on deep in real world asset AI, but ordinals is definitely something I don't want to fade. This also brings me back to the next follow-up question, if you will, Matt. I know like you love price action, you like macroeconomics. You've been like an advisor to many successful, highly respected projects. So where do you see? I know you might be a little bit biased, but where do you see Bitcoin in the next? In the next 1 to 3 years, given the current geopolitical and macro event environment we have right now.
So my prediction has been that within the next few months, we will see nation states come out and say, yes, we've been buying Bitcoin over the last few months. Edward Snowden said this after me, and then there was another video that went viral, I think 2-3 days ago, of a dude in a tie also saying it. Like, the point is that, especially in certain countries that are stuck between United States and China, and they don't really like either of them, and they've got plenty of money coming in, and they've got plenty of international trade going on. Where do they store their money? And actually, most money these days, is stored in government bonds, and that's like upwards of like 60% of all the world's wealth is being. And what is a government bond? It means you're lending money to a government, which it's just a ludicrous proposition. Like, I would in my life, like I grumble about the taxes that I have to pay because they force me to, because I don't have an option. It's basically theft in my mind. Lending money to a government is just ludicrous. Like, you would voluntarily take your money and give it to the government so that they can pay you 4 or 5% or something like that on an annual basis. It's made up money. It's not real. It doesn't have a value, and they can print as much of it as they want to. So that 4 or 5% that you're getting, they've printed it in order to give it to you. So basically, that's just devaluing your own currency. So they're looking for wealth. I mean, they're the next Michael Saylors. Like, they're like literally. I believe that I'm not gonna name names, but I've got a short list in mind right now who are almost definitely. Yeah, almost definitely going, okay, wait a second, let's load up on this on Bitcoin as much as we can. And they're not going to say that they're doing it, because as soon as they do, the price jumps and they want to buy more. So they're just going to keep that on the down low as much as they can, using back channels and accumulating without saying anything. But as soon as their bags are loaded and they've got their backlog at least taken care of purchases that they want to do and deploy as much as they can, then there will be announcements coming out saying, okay, yes, we've been buying Bitcoin over the last few months.
Then probably others will follow as well, as a duly endorsed.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know if you guys remember what happened to gold in 2009, once the Federal Reserve started announcing that they're about to print money like there's no tomorrow. I mean, it was just a no-brainer. Like, people were clamoring for anything that was anchored to the floor.
Yeah. So we have seen retail FOMO. We're seeing now institutional FOMO. Maybe soon nation FOMO. That would be awesome.
You can count. You can count on it. Mark my words.
Yeah, I don't think El Salvador is the last country that adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender. Most likely other nations will follow as well. It's just for me, like, speculating which country is the next one, which nation is the next one. I do have some assumptions, but time will learn soon. Matty and Doug, you guys have been spitting a lot of alpha. Thank you so much. Are there any last things you guys want to mention about Quantum Expedition or about mining, halving, or any tips, suggestions?
Yeah, appreciate the questions, and thanks a lot for having us on, and for having us as a partner. We're flattered and honored about that. And yeah, everybody who's watching, do feel free to come and talk to us if you have questions about mining. If you'd like to get involved in the crowd fund, yeah, it's there on the screen, quantumexpeditions.com. Hit the join the expedition, and that'll take you to our WeFunder page where you can invest for as little as $100 and up to $1 million. And then yeah, join the Discord, because that's our office space. That's where we meet with investors and talk about all things Bitcoin on a daily basis.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. When you get in, I guess most people know on Discord you have to like register and whatnot on our page, but don't hesitate to jump into what's called the water cooler. I mean, it's literally like a water cooler at your office. So we try to make it as friendly, as possible. So jump into the water cooler and say hi, ask some questions.
Yeah, guys, join the expedition. I know Matty's an awesome guy. Doug is an awesome guy.
We
Doug,
appreciate you.
unfortunately, is too handsome to be broadcasted with his face on. But
Yeah,
probably
bro.
going to see his video, his avatar on Discord. Probably one with a beard, right?
As always. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, let's call this like a beautiful day, ladies and gentlemen. Doug and Matty, again, thank you so much for sharing so much alpha with us about the mining and the halving, and the implication and the effects that it has on the market. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Thank you for following us. Hit the like button for Doug and Matty. Appreciate them by hitting the like button. Until the next time, see you around, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Enjoy
guys.
having, folks. We'll see you soon.
Awesome.
Legends.